a big city, every night feels the same. Same for whom, though? And same in what way? At least for me, tonight isn't an ordinary night. That's why I'm dressed like this. That's why I came here. It's a nice place, despite the fake smiles, the wandering eyes, and the bland music. Rachmaninoff and Coldplay sounding more watered down than ever. The pizza and the drinks, though, are great. Especially the drinks. And the atmosphere, well, it's like being invited to one of Bruce Wayne's parties, where he plays the part of a massive asshole. Still, honestly, I'm already sick of this old guy who won't stop staring at me. Without meaning to, I stared back. Maybe I thought it would intimidate him, make him stop. Or maybe I've just had too much to drink. I take another sip of this thing, whatever it is. Oh no, he stood up. He's coming this way. Maybe he's going to the bathroom. Maybe he's leaving. No, he doesn't look like someone who's leaving. Don't look at him. Better drink a little more. Just tell him you're not interested, and that's it. He came over and started talking like it was nothing. Said he noticed me looking and thought he'd say hi. Asked if I recognized him. No idea. He said it wasn't a coincidence he was here. People from the publishing house told him I'd probably be around. He explained that the editor was a friend of his, that the restaurant owner was too. They told him I usually came here. He said talented people don't go unnoticed. Then he mentioned my book, congratulated me. I guess I have my moments, but it's definitely not something I hear every day. And before I realized it, he had my attention. I told him how I got published. He told me he wanted to write a book of his memoirs. He gave me his card and asked for my number so I could help him with that. No flirting. We talked a bit more. He asked the pianist for a song and then paid the bill for both of us. I watched him leave with 2 huge bodyguards. I wish I had a pair of those to take me home safely. Damn envy. On my way back, reality hit again. My boyfriend was supposed to be with me that night, but he thought it was a good idea to break up with me yesterday, 1 day before my book launch. Asshole. And I'm an idiot too. What hurt the most was writing the dedication for my first short story book. He took the only thing someone can really take from a writer. Everything else, one way or another, I had already lost on my own. A week ago, I lost my job. It wasn't anything special, but it paid the rent. While I looked for another one, I lived off the money from the book, but it was disappearing fast. As if that weren't enough, the asshole texted me saying he missed me. I almost replied a few times, but then I remembered the dedication and the feeling passed. Everything was going wrong. But at least I had Misha. A few days later, I decided to contact the old man I met at the restaurant. A few accents here, some grammar fixes there, and boom, another month of rent covered. He asked me to meet him at his office on a Tuesday at noon. I've always thought rich people call office the place where they rest while watching their accounts fill up with zeros, ones, and twos. I pictured him in a ridiculously expensive chair with a woman giving him a pedicure while he watched some weird fetish video on his computer. And that's more or less how it was. There was no woman giving him a massage, and I can't swear he was watching anything strange, but everything in that office felt expensive. He welcomed me warmly, like we were old friends. He said he'd read my book, that he found it fascinating, and that he trusted I could help him with his memoirs. He told me his idea. It was like he thought a couple of good anecdotes were enough to make a memoir write itself. I've never been able to finish something that long myself. That takes discipline. Discipline takes rules, and rules take someone willing to follow them. But it meant more money for me. The quality of the work didn't really matter. It was just about fulfilling one of the last whims of a rich old man. Everything else he'd probably already done. Travel the world, sleep with a 20-something, hunt endangered species. So all he needed was the book. He told me the story he had in mind. It didn't really go anywhere, just scattered ideas that might, at best, make a short story. The first weeks were the hardest. He had no idea how to begin, so I wrote the first chapter myself, then the second, then the third. Later, he started bringing in ideas, but they felt forced. I convinced him to let me write the following chapters too. The pay was incredible. I made more money in 3 months than in the previous 5 years. I wrote a few pages a day and spent the rest of my time drinking wine. Without realizing it, I had written more than I ever had before. They weren't my memoirs, so they didn't have to matter to me. As long as the old man was happy, that was enough. If something didn't fully convince him, he'd make suggestions. I'd rewrite things in another direction, and he'd be satisfied. Sometimes we went out for drinks together, but usually I'd go dancing before he got serious about his book. I'd leave him alone at the bar, waiting a couple of hours for me so we could leave together. Sometimes he left earlier, but he'd have his bodyguards come back for me. Good guy, really. I never got to tell the poor old man. He died of a heart attack before we could finish his memoirs. He left everything to his daughters and his wife, except for his personal library, which he left to me. A pile of dead trees filled with the poetry of dead people. Some first editions by important authors I sold for good money. The rest are still in my apartment. The least I could do for him was finish his memoirs. There wasn't much left, and from there on it was relatively easy. I used one of the few good lines he'd ever said to me. Now I knew how to use it. Every future, in turn, has its own future. I handed the finished manuscript to his widow. I told her her husband had written it and had asked me to proofread it shortly before he died. She cried when she read the dedication, which I had also written, of course. She paid me well and thanked me for not trying to steal it. It was published immediately. Everyone talked about the book. It was a success. They said it was a shame that someone so distinguished had never let his talent run free before. I was interviewed many times. They asked me where the old man's inspiration came from. And there I was, talking about my best book, even if no one knew it, and about a dead man who couldn't even have come up with a decent title. This definitely calls for a celebration.